Hey, everybody. I just wanted to let you know we're going to get started in just the next couple of minutes. So if you want to grab a glass of wine or water from the back, find a seat. Maybe 5 minutes tops. So now's the time. It's all happening, folks. It's all happening. It worked. It worked. They were ready. Y'all are a lovely, lovely group of people. Let me just start there. This is a beautiful picture. And I'm going to get it later, but I'm busy right now. So, welcome. Welcome to the beautiful Broadside. Welcome to the book launch for Turned Earth. Yes, do it. I am Raina Nielsen. I am the event specialist at Blue Cypress Books. We have partnered with Brad and with Carolyn and with the Broadside to bring you this amazing event. I'm going to introduce Carolyn. Carolyn Hembree is an amazing poet and an amazing person. She has 3 books of poetry. She's an associate professor at UNO in the MFA program. Yay. Full professor. Oh my gosh, Carolyn, update your bio. I mean, I read that right off of here. Associate professor, ma'am. Anyway, her latest book for today is also for sale back at the table. And if you don't have it yet, you should grab it as well as you're here. There's going to be a conversation between Brad and Carolyn, and then Brad is going to read some of his work from Turned Earth. And I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn to move us through the event. So please join me in welcoming Carolyn Hembree.
Go ahead and take a seat and get you your wine.
Thank you.
Right? And Raina, thank you. I'm going to have my personal assistant update that bio. John? My husband. Okay, I want to make sure everybody can hear us. Is the best way to position this between us? This one?
You each have one, so that one's yours. You leave it on yours.
I'm just a pain. Okay. Oh, wow.
Hi.
Hi, it's fun to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got your little thing off. I'm not. Ooh, how do you? Oh, that's so crystal good. Oh, that's great.
That's what I was going for.
I know.
Yeah.
Today we are here to celebrate Brad Richard's 5th book of poems. And now I'm going to give the plaudits. They're sort of the boilerplate that you'll find on his website and on the back of its books, and then some more personal stuff. Brad Richard was the 2002 winner of the Poets and Writers, Inc. Writers Exchange Award in Poetry, a 2002 Louisiana Division of the Arts Literature Fellow, a 2010 winner of the Washington Prize, 2011 finalist for the Publishing Triangle's Tom Gunn Award for Gale Male Poetry. That happened twice. He was a 2015 Louisiana Artist of the Year and a 2018 winner of the 10th Gate Prize. I'm not going to mention the magazines because there are too many. It's a comment. He has taught creative writing at the New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts and Lusher Charter School, and is a faculty member of the Kenyon Review Writers Workshop for Teachers. And I met Brad in 2001 when he was teaching at NOCA, and I had the privilege of co-teaching with him. And wow, that was a moment of definitely, getting some chops there to co-teach with that guy. So how many of you here have taught with Brad, been taught by Brad? Taught Brad even. Yeah, there's a lot of you. And some more of you will be seeing him at UNO because he's going to be coming to lead a workshop. Remember? Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'll be there.
For decades now, I have admired the tremendous prosodic range of Brad's poetry across his collections. He deftly contrasts huge anaphoric music with smaller, nuanced sonic patterns. I can't think of a living poet with a better ear. Brad is at the top of his game with this 5th collection, Turned Earth, which I am so happy and honored to be celebrating with you today. So the first thing I wanted to address, as you probably gathered from what I was saying, is the music of your poetry. Even the text message you sent me, I think, was in iambic tetrameter, earlier today.
I can't help it.
I'll have the co-car in my car. It's a iambic tetrameter with a anapestic substitution in the final position.
Yeah, and with a little bit of alliteration there and a slant rhyme.
I noticed the
Yeah,
internal
yeah, right.
slant rhyme. Why are we friends? So all in all, big question: how did you train your ear, and how? Well, I guess how do you keep it tuned to run on through that metaphor? So how did you train your ear? Because it's been throughout the book, so it's not something that developed really from mid career. I mean, it's always been there. So and how do you keep it going?
Thank you for asking that. I also want to first say thank you so much for being here. This means so much to me to see you all here. It's amazing that I know pretty much every single person in this room. That means so much. Yeah, very grateful. And super grateful to you, of course. So, I think my earliest memory of loving to just play with the sound of words was driving around with my dad when I was a kid, and we would play silly word games in the car all the time, just like with puns and other things. And then when I started really seriously studying poetry at NOCA, I remember like really specific poems that made me like want to be able to do that thing. Like Wallace Stevens's Tea at the Palaz of Hoon, which, oh my goodness, I just happened to have with me. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it is very short. But like, imagine being like 14 or 15 and you're hearing not less, because in purple I descended the western day through what you called the loneliest air. Not less was I myself. There's just, there's a sonic confidence in that that I really admired and was a little intimidated by. And then, a line that stuck with me from the first time I heard it was like the final line of Plath's Edge. Her blacks crackle and drag. It's like, how do you do that? That's just magic. So I remember also doing a lot of exercises when I was in college, just doing ear exercises, just writing lines, just to try to see what happens when I would make certain combinations of sounds. And to think about that in terms of patterns through a whole poem too. That got more sophisticated when I was in graduate school, and was also like more seriously listening to classical music, and particularly chamber music, and thinking about the structure of chamber music, the classic ABA kind of structure, and like how certain themes are introduced, and then there's something else in the middle, and the themes come back and are changed at the end. So thinking that in terms of content, but even more for me in terms of sound.
It's a great answer, and speaks to the lyricism throughout this collection. It is a lyric collection. I mean, it's not a narrative, even though the poetry is incredibly clear at all times. But and there are themes, of course, that allow us to create a kind of story, but it's primarily lyric, which is enviable. So what I wanted to ask was a little bit about the process of taking this work from a manuscript into a book. Okay, and here's the kind of Barbara Walters probe. First, just how long did it take? And that alone could make one cry, right, when preparing a book. But what was the most challenging part of the process? So going from the manuscript, right, thinking about the oldest poem in that book, and how it went from manuscript to book, and what was most challenging.
Ooh. So the oldest poems in this collection are probably from around 2012, 2011. So Zuhitsu for My Mother's Breasts, How I Came to This, and the Crossing. Those all came out of one summer workshop that I was in. And I was kind of between projects at that point. So I was, it's like, okay, I'll just write whatever. I'm in this workshop. I'll just do your prompts, see what happens. And then those opened up some possibilities for me that I kept trying to follow. And then that got interrupted by finishing Parasite Kingdom, which totally occupied, an entire year when I finally bore down on that one to finish it. But then when I came back, which was really during the pandemic lockdown period, to this material, and wrote a lot of the newer stuff that ended up in here. Then I started looking at those older poems differently and thinking about them in relation to this newer work. It's really interesting thinking about a couple of the poems, like How I Am Whole and Field Trip Barataria Preserve, which went through wild revision changes. Field Trip Barataria Preserve is now a modified high bun. Mm-hmm. It was all in couplets when I first wrote it, right? Yeah. And also I just have to give a huge shout out to Ashley Gill, the copy editor at LSU Press, who has such a great eye and ear herself. And she made suggestions that in a couple of cases made me rethink all kinds of things. So the most challenging part was probably finding the order for the ending.
You mean the last section of the book, section 5?
Yeah, the last section was the hardest to put together. And I have, thanks to you and other people in our workshop, I want to especially thank Rodney Jones, who gave me some really key feedback for thinking about that. So,
did you have to, was there any poem or were there any poems that you had to cut that hurt?
Every one that I cut hurt. Actually, there were a couple that I don't miss. I look back at them like, really? Mm-hmm. You were going to put that in a book? Really? I don't think so. There are a few which, as you know, are now going to be in the reissue of Motion Studies. And that was when I was just trying to do too much with this book. I was trying to have it be this book that is a very personal book, by and large, but also embraces community in some key ways for me. But then, like those poems that I just mentioned are much more historical, and they did not belong in here. That was like a whole different register of thinking and imagining. So yeah.
And I know the poems you're talking about, which leads me to my next question. Beautifully, we didn't even plan that. So it's a lyric collection, not a sequence, a lyric collection in 5 sections. And sections 1 and 2 include elegies for your mom, right? They include some erotic, at least one erotic poem I was reading earlier today for someone in the room. Where's Timmy? It's this lovely erotic poem, gardening poems, and New Orleans, just New Orleans as both place, as subject, as character, and what have you. But section 3 then is more public, dealing with racism in America, and from policing on Nextdoor, what is that, an app or a place, a forum, a thing?
A hot mess.
The hot mess, to microaggressions in the classroom, to the murders of Martin Luther King Jr. and George Floyd, as well as other Black men who have been murdered. So as a white guy, or white person, but I think it's important to say, as a white guy, how do you write about race?
yeah, it's tough. I feel a huge responsibility to do so. And with things like the poem that references the assassination of MLK, that's The Path to the Teaching and Why. So that's a childhood poem, and it includes a lot of things that were just sort of like naturally in the air when I was of that age. But you're right that it does lead to a larger meditation in that poem about how racism has affected people that I know. And you know, I'm deeply grateful to two people in particular who allowed me to share their stories in there. Maurice Carlos Ruffin and my dear friend from high school, Greta Edwards. But that poem went through so many revisions to get it right. And I think, I mean, I could go on and on and on about this, but I think one key thing for me is just point of view. Like, where do I position myself in relation to these kinds of traumatic events, whether they're like things that happen to somebody I know or things that we are all engaging with in civic life, you know? And if we're not engaging with them in civic life, why not? You know? So I think that's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it always comes back to. It's like, why am I not dealing with this if it's right there?
No, that's well put. And that leads me to my last question. The nature poem. You're a master gardener, which is a thing, if you all didn't know. It means like really a gardener, master gardener.
Doesn't always mean a good gardener.
Take a look at his yard. It's astounding. And so that obviously informs so much of your writing, though your writing has always been informed by flora and fauna and the geography and setting being extremely important, even, you know, going back to habitations. But the treatment of the natural world, I think, has changed across the books. And I guess my question is about writing about nature now in 2025, the eco-poetics of this collection, you know, and how you feel about being, I mean, one piece of what you do, you're a nature poet. How do you approach that?
You know, interestingly, as we're sitting here having this conversation, I'm thinking about your previous question, because it's part of civic life. You know, it took me a long time to really fully, deeply accept the fact that we don't have nature in the way that, say, the Romantic poets had nature, right? I mean, even they didn't have it in the way that they, you know, right? They created this sublime idea of nature as separate and holy and all of that. And it just took me a really, really long time to accept that what we have done is we have made nature into a created thing. It is a concept. And as a gardener, I am really aware that when I create a garden, it's an idea, right? Sometimes it's a very messy idea. I try to, you know, revise my garden sometimes the way I revise a poem, you know? And I also think of a garden as its own kind of community. It's like, you know, it's like, here are these plants that go together, and here are these pollinators that are part of this community, and these birds and these other things, these beetles and worms that are doing all of their work in the garden. So, you know, and I'm an important part of that community, you know, keeping it going, and it keeps me mindful of the, you know, extensions from that.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
So before I leave the stage, I give you our dyed-in-the-wool New Orleans poet, my confidant, my brother in poetry, my ride or die, Brad Richard.
I'm going to do something that I have never really had the opportunity to do. Since you're all sitting here in front of me. Oh, you're all so pretty. Can I get it? Ah. This is why I never do this, because I'm really bad at it. One more. Oh. Yeah, this is what I'm getting.
Do this one.
Oh.
And then click the volume button. So it's gonna zoom all the way out.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gotta like look like that way. And smile and you gotta oh, yeah. Right here. Brad.
Yes. Yes.
Why don't you get in this photo and let her take it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi. This is my cousin Lily.
Ready?
Oh, some people. All right. So I'm going to start with the first poem in the book, and I'm going to end with the last poem in the book, and I'm going to skip around quite a bit. How I am whole. Some days I just want to be an idea. Form, duration, écriture. But my body keeps getting me lost in things. Mist so white it brightens my classroom windows before thickening into rain. The slow darkening of rue in its iron pot. As I stir until my shoulder aches, the hidden heat in carnation petals. And I love sex so much. I believe the body does just fine without ideas. Yesterday, an artist asked for the story of my body. As her studio skylight filled with snow, I remembered a porch in late summer and me, 6 or 7, standing shirtless by the screen door, feeling the glow of the whole day inside me and thinking, I want to remember this. The next poem has a title that was used once by William Butler Yeats. And I did have his poem in mind when I was writing this one. This is called Lapis Lazuli, and it's from my friend Dana Sonnenschein. Oh, sorry, I have to warn you, I will be singing. Lapis Lazuli. Among all the unimaginable things, imagine Shuggie Otis at 17, composing Strawberry Letter 23, playing 3 kinds of guitar, 2 kinds of piano, also bass, organ, drums, and bells, and singing every part, harmonizing with himself. All through the morning rain I gaze, the sun doesn't shine. Rainbows and waterfalls run through my mind. For 4 minutes and 2 seconds, I believe there is no world without music, without genius to compose and play it, conjuring a garden where we sit and share smoked trout and a white Bordeaux, telling stories about the good in us. The song ends. I play it again. Nothing lasts while we do. 250,000 years of evolution went into making Shuggie, and into our making 250,000 acres of New Mexico burn, and 1 million more tons of Greenland's ice melt into acidifying seas, and theocratic thugs place liens on every uterus, and a white kid nursed on 4chan in pandemic lockdown decides to save his race with lots of guns. Blue flower echo from a cherry cloud. In my pocket, I keep a smooth nub of lapis lazuli, tumbled and polished, found at an herbarium in Philadelphia. One more nub among hundreds heaped in a basket, while the friend I was with selected herbs for spells that keep her whole. Later, we bought takeout barbecue and ate it sitting on the sidewalk, amazed to look at the crowded market we just left and imagine it as it was a few months past, as it might be again any day now. Locked, empty, its air, no one's breath. Pitted gray flecks, my fingers worry, holy blue mottled with milkier hues, remind me I'm still here. Ode to Bowls. So this, quite a few of the poems in this book came out of that bizarre pandemic period. I was fortunate to have a really wonderful writing friend, Karen McCadden in Vermont, who we would get together on Zoom a couple times a week and just sit and write together. It was lovely. And this was one of the poems I got out of that. Ode to Bowls. Here's a nested set of 5, tan, sturdy, rough-lipped, my mother bought at a flea market from a weeping widower. And there was once a chipped porcelain sink where baby eye was bathed, and a marble font where sinner's fingers dip. But not mine, not in years. I thought I knew the wash bowl and pitcher, gold-rimmed, my grandmother kept on a stand in my father's old bedroom. Heirloom, I thought, until after her funeral, I pulled from the pitcher's mouth a foxed paper tag, 2-piece, $49.50, in cursive pencil. At the intersection of Jefferson and Claiborne, I roll down my window to place $5 in a bowl a man holds toward me. What is a bowl? Half a bubble, glowing, blown from molten glass, clay thrown on a potter's wheel and fired and glazed. Always fire in every bowl's making, always a cooling to harden the soft shape. In the kitchen, I drape a towel over the bowl on the counter where bread swells with a billion breaths. I stack cereal bowls in a cabinet like skulls in an ossuary and place on the pantry's highest shelf broken halves of bowls I've loved and might glue whole again. There's the cat's water bowl that says dog. There's the resin-lined bowl that fills my head with smoke I release like a prayer. And here is the bowl I live in, reclaimed basin of a marsh where Chitimacha hunters caught snipe for Creole housewives until the railroad came, tracing the basin's rim, then crossing it, parcel by parcel marked off for houses, schools, libraries, streets where potholes are bowls, sand and gravel never fill, but water will. Thank you. How one goes on. In the mornings, there is coffee. Also, 4 cats and a huge bromeliad that has not bloomed in years. In the mornings, there is the kindness of the one who brought the coffee and set it on the nightstand. Let the day wait while it cools. Over breakfast, planes crash, flags fall, mothers die. After breakfast, it is important to be wrapped in a blanket on the couch and coo, goofy girl, to the Siamese. At noon, there is nothing to note, just the memory of your mother reading late at night with a cat in her lap. One has no choice in these matters. There lies the afternoon. It will be yours until it isn't. Will you pick up the shirts from the laundry, pay the bills, dig up the daylilies from the now too shady bed, and move them to a sunnier one? 5 years since you dug them from her garden. There went the afternoon. Dirt clinging to the bathtub, the checkbook unopened on the desk. The kind one's green shirt you love, still unclaimed. Here comes the evening with its poem you should have been writing all day. Evening with all its unforgiven faces, all yours. Night, dirt under your fingernails, whiskey dulling your mouth, the box of her pulverized bones on a closet shelf. Where is the kind one? When will he come home? Morning, as if it will never come. Next poem I'm going to read is a longish one. This is called Matrilineation. Homage to Nell Parker, 1944 to 2015, my mom. So this is a slightly modified sonnet crown. So you're going to hear the last line of each section become a modified variation of itself as the first line of the next section. Excuse me, there's 7 in all. I'll use air quotes to show when I'm quoting from Mom's poems and an air slash to show where she did a strikeout in her own work. There's other context, but I think it comes through in the poem. Matrilineation, homage to Nell Parker. I'm trying to imagine you imagining me finding at the bottom of a plastic storage bin, under clippings from your daily camera column, under stray snapshots of family I never knew, under rust-stained doilies and your baby shoes, your life spread out around me on the floor. This folder, confidential materials enclosed. Your poems. I was what, 11? You took them out to read to me, then burst into tears, ran to your study, left them splayed beside me on the window seat, summer light fresh as your mother's death that spring. Imagine me finding your words, losing mine. I know the typeface, that old royal you gave me, and a mind that seeks with words to say these thoughts. A mind that seeks with words to say these thoughts that wander in a maze. I hear your heart, iambic, broken, rhythm remains. At your memorial in the Methodist church basement, I read a few of yours aloud. Should have stopped myself from adding Williams, Dickinson, one of my own. Suited, I sweated. Your brother wore a Marines tee. Stories he told me. Wild teenage you sneaking out all night, then dating my dad. Stories your poems from your second marriage tell. There was a woman who acted like a wife. I'd write you a love poem if I could. Instead, I've cleaned the house. I'd write a poem that tells all the thoughts I have to share, but rather put a clean ashtray by your favorite chair. You put a clean ashtray by your favorite chair, read true crime, ignored the phone, smoked. 3 marriages left you happiest alone. The last leached your pension, but you reclaimed your name. Were 30 cats too many? On my visits, their reek choked my sleep. Sleepless, you ordered gems from jewelry TV to hoard in dresser drawers. Appraised, fake. I found baskets of handed down kids' clothes you'd laundered for the next needy family, checks to the Martin Messenger to cover Catfish Hut's ads when the owner's granddaughter was sick. Regrets? None, you said. But I'd write a poem. If only I could say words that won't come out. Instead, I chafe and tease, knowing that you know what I mean. I chafe and tease. I learn what you mean, heartsick from what you learned in the edits. Sometimes I think I'd like to be a spy and hide behind trees and catch 40 thieves. Sometimes I'd rather be a star of Broadway shows and buy my clothes at a bazaar. I've wanted to be so many things, sought after by kings. And then, when I've thought of these, I've been them in dreams, and really it seems that it's nice to be me. And really it seems there's no future in it. And really, what future is there but this parsing of our past? 13 sheets of typing paper, 8.5 by 11, 6 by 9, most dated May 1975. Alone in a house deep in Alabama pines, your husband away for work in Birmingham, you used what you had. Grief left you time. Clatter of keys all morning, a walk in the yard, weeding the garden where you heard a toad setting up shop by the tomato plants, and hurried back inside to write it. Dad dropped me off in June for the summer. You came out of your study, gathered your poems, shut this folder. I can't. Maybe I read too much. Mother always said so. She's gone now, so I can't ask her why. You're gone now. And now. I can't ask why you wrote confidential materials enclosed across this folder like a spell to let you forget her, the one who wrote. I can guess which poem you drafted last. Scarred with strike-throughs, felt tip over typescript. What is it? What's wrong? I scream but make no sound. Talk with me, touch me. I could tell you things. Why the search for Mr. Goodbar, a plug for the emptiness. Let us pray. Watch the fruit fall in on itself. You had to leave her there with me on that window seat while you wept in your study. You had to go on with, yet without her. She was, yet was not my mother. Years later, that line of mine you said you kept rereading. To be is yet to be imagined. You said you kept rereading, to be is yet to be imagined. Words that come now to me as if they were yours, our words together, apart from us, themselves. Complete within itself, my soul becomes involved with trees reaching silently toward the sun. It's sunset. It's my birthday. I love sunset and spending my birthday writing all day and never having more than coffee gone cold, an open dictionary, these trees going bare. I know the dishes are stacking themselves in the kitchen sink, but look, the berries are turning dark. Let's go watch them. This is me, imagining you, imagining me. Thank you. There are 7 more poems. This next poem is for Carolyn Hembree, and it is called Craft Talk. This is a crazy gardener poem also. It must have rained last night. My pineland mallow is blooming. Pale yellow eye, wide at sunrise, it receives my image as I pass on my way to pick parsley. My pineland mallow's flower looks like an okra flower, and okra too is a mallow, but not my mallow. It doesn't mind if you prefer the salvia's red tongues or calendula's buttery suns. Carpenter bees dip and suck all day in blown oregano plumes and basil, germander, and gaura. Slow mallow. It takes days to make a green pod silvered with whiskers. Every morning, one bee pays one visit to this holy corolla. My what? Asks my mallow. You should leave the garden, it tells me. Go to a museum, have lunch with a friend. Hasn't it been long enough? Thank you. I see some neighbors of mine here, and I'm thrilled to see them because this next poem is for them. It is called One Friday Afternoon, New Orleans, June 2020. A tuba's thump and pulse sends ripples through lockdown hush. A drum taps, a trumpet jumps in, calling me to stop refreshing pandemic data graphs and clips of George Floyd protests. And to honor my friends still recovering from being hit in the head by a tear gas can that did not exist, cops claim, so was not fired. To honor a high school friend's mother, a nurse who died in a hospital bed 1 floor down from her dying husband, I put on my mask, walk outside to follow the brass bands blare to the house whose porch is their stage. They are glad to see us. Me, my husband, our neighbors, Dean and Barb, Amy and Greg, moms with strollers, a pink-haired, pink-masked girl, and the friends who push her wheelchair. We sway, dance, drop dollars in the tip bucket. A silver-haired woman in a tie-dye dress steps closer, hands raised as the tuba player blows and sweats and the band swerves from Liza Jane into something none of us has ever heard, this moment's answer to our need. A cruiser crawls by, light bar flashing. Thank you. Another garden poem, another crazy gardener poem, Anthropocene Villanelle. The weather's beautiful and I'm still here. Drought stunts my garden. I'd hoped for the best because the forecast wasn't exactly clear. I plant seeds, they sprout, then disappear. The satsuma tree curls its leaves, distressed. Still, the weather's beautiful, and I'm here, along with dandelions that persevere like aphids, squirrels, and other pests. Even if the forecast isn't very clear for my kind, whatever's left won't need to fear with freeways to roam, our houses for nests. Wither, weather, weather, wither, still I'm here, laying in flats of pole beans like last year, picking wrinkled pods as if I've failed some test. I blame the forecasts. Have they ever been clear? Indoors, I check my news feed, find my fears gone viral. No putting them to rest. The weather's fine for now. I'm still here. What's beautiful? Natur mort. Finally, it's clear. Thank you. This next poem is from my husband, Tim Watson. It's called The Gardener 2. There is a poem called The Gardener 1, and if you want to read it, you know what to do. The Gardener 2. My grandmother laughed when I'd squat while playing in the yard, poking a spoon at the dirt, a little prissy as I plucked fleabane's puny starburst blooms to decorate graves I dug for pill bugs, whose armor coiled shut when my fingertip pushed them under. They opened, hauled themselves out. I wiped my fingers on the grass. Hours later, the smell of earth, or was it me, lingered. My husband laughs when I come in for lunch, boots muddy, knees caked, face smudged, babbling fritillaries, carpenter bees, and we need more bags of soil for the white sage and salvias I'll plant. Boots by the door, clothes by the washer, he says, ladling out bowls of gumbo. I kiss his neck, inhale his spice, and again fleabane's blooms turn to white tufted globes. My breath blows bare. Oh, thank you. Three more. Zinnias. There's never enough time to see everything in the museums we visit most often. I planted 10 packets of seeds, and only these sprouted, grew 5 feet high, and blew face down in last night's storm. Watching my husband chop an onion, I think of all the poets no one reads. Rooted in air, rooted in smoke, washed away in silt-bearing floods. Don't worry, it's firm, I call out to my 4-year-old godson as my right leg sinks to the knee in the mound of dirt I'm climbing. This next one is from my father, Jim Richard. This is called The Crossing. I've done this before. Sidestepped down the bayou's bank with my father, stooping to help him slip the tarp from our pirogue, easing it down to the water. I'm 10 and this is magic while it lasts. Our flat-bottomed glide on the muddy current, dipping an oar now and then just to feel the reason it was made. We pass willows whose low-hanging branches trace lines on the surface, like my fingers dangling over the boat's low rim. We lull in the shade of a river oak 6 feet from a branch sagging from the weight of snakes piled asleep on it. Some part of one of them rolls, another slow, unknowable knot. Then one strand of the mystery stirs and wriggles free, ribbons down into shadowed water, then ripples across, head lifted, past our boat to the sunlit other side. That's it. I'm here. I'm doing this until it can't be done, until there is no other side, no farther to go, no father, every feared thing stolen, as this boat will be in a month or two, until I am equal to what the snake knows, slipping down from the tree, stepping down into bilge, head up to steady myself, pushing off. This will be the last poem that I'm going to read. Thank you so much. This one is called How I Came to This. And this is a poem all about community to me. So how I came to this. One morning, I'm digging in the garden, my shovel turning stalks of bolted lettuce back into earth. Later, I'm shelving books that have stood quietly in stacks for months, sliding them back into alphabetical gaps where I will forget them again for many years. Chekhov in hand, I stop, thinking I heard the snap of the raccoon trap shutting, but a glance out the window says, I'm wrong. Some other morning, I'm listening to my husband's car turn the corner as I open the notebook on my desk and try to remember the line I held in my head when I woke. By lunch, I've read bad poetry and written worse. Read the news, signed urgent petitions, and urged you, my friends, to do the same. After lunch, a roasted chicken breast, asparagus. I nap until the orange cat walks over my chest, and I realize I have not left the house, and I realize I have no desire to. One summer, I will dig an asparagus bed. I will read all of Proust. I will teach myself the secrets of extraordinary cuisines. This afternoon, I read one page of a New Yorker and fall back asleep to dream I am at the deathbed of Gertrude Stein, in a group with the famed chef Alice. And as Stein expires, we all wander out into the fields to watch the northern lights. The cat walks across my grave, my heart, again, and I wake, remembering that the lost line contained the letter L. I could still make the gym or the library or dinner or another attempt at a poem. Yes, all of that will be perfect tomorrow. And perhaps worth talking about later tonight when I greet my husband on the porch with a glass of wine and ask how his day was, as I will ask him every day for as long as we each shall live. Thank you so much. And now our event coordinator has some important announcements.
They're so important. Brad, just yes, so good. So, right? Yes, do it again. So Brad's going to sign back here at this table that's got that glittery tablecloth on it. Give us just a minute. We need to pull it out, make a little space around it. So be ready to line up, but don't go yet. There's also cake in the back. I've pre-cut a few slices. I will be back there to cut some more slices in just a minute. So just, again, grab some cake and then give me a minute. There's more wine. There's water. Hang out. It's so great to see y'all. Thank you for coming out. Let's do this.